everyone for joining today. Navigate for me to the summary tab. Use your arrow keys to navigate to cell C2. This is where I want you to select the computer program combination that you have, and then it will auto-populate all of the relevant shortcuts to you specifically. So if you're on PC Excel, that is just the default I had in there, so you don't need to change it, but you could hit Alt down arrow. That allows you to access any drop-down without the mouse, and then you can just use your arrow keys. If you're on the Mac, you're going to need to change this to Mac Excel, obviously. So you would hit Option down arrow, and that would allow you to select Mac Excel and hit Enter. The Mac shortcuts would pop up. I'm just going to switch mine back. If you're on Sheets, I'm going to go back up here and get my Sheets up. You can just hit Enter in C2, and that should pull up the list. And then you can either select PC Sheets, or you can select Mac Sheets, depending on obviously what your combination is. Any questions on getting our shortcuts up? This is just going to flow through. Just going to change that back. All of these will flow through the individual tabs as we work through actual exercises. So today we're going to break up ditching the mouse into really two main sections: navigating and then formatting. And when we get to formatting, we're going to talk about master shortcuts because it's really useful with formatting. We're going to break up navigation into navigating within a worksheet, navigating within cells, and then navigating across tabs. Throughout class, I want you to try and practice navigating across tabs without your mouse. So depending on time, we might not get to nav part 3, which is at the end of the spreadsheet. And that is just more practice to navigate across tabs. But try and do so because we're going to try and do so throughout class today to really try and not use that mouse at all during this hour. So if you hit, unfortunately, navigating across tabs is one of those shortcuts that is different for every combination and computer, every computer program combination. So it's in your list here of navigation shortcuts. So if you're on the PC, it's Control page up, page down. If you're on the Mac, it will be Option left or right arrow. Again, this is all here for you depending on which computer program you picked. If you're on Sheets, it's PC Sheets, it's Alt up or down arrow. And if you're on Mac Sheets, it's Option up or down arrow. So try and remember what that is. It is listed here for you. It will be listed on all of our nav tabs as well. Try and get to nav part 1 using that navigating across tabs. So I'm on a PC Excel combo. I'm going to hit Control page down. And that should bring you to our nav part 1 tab, which is navigating within a worksheet. Once you're there, you can just use your arrow keys to navigate around without your mouse. That's the most basic way of navigating around without your mouse. Navigate for me to cell I-20, which is top grossing actors of 2019 through 2021. So we're just going to get some practice navigating around here, doing some simple formula work as well to put it to use. So I could just use my arrows here to navigate around this entire data table, but you could imagine if I have longer strings of data, that's when I might be scrolling with my mouse to get to the bottom. The option on the keyboard to avoid doing that is using your jumping keys. And this is Control on the PC and Command on the Mac. So when you're in I-20, just hit Control down for me or Command down. That's going to bring you down to cell I-37. That is the bottom of that relevant text string. So it's going to jump to the end of any relevant text string that you're in. If you keep doing that, you're going to be able to quickly jump across data tables. If you do it all the way down, you're going to jump to the very bottom of your spreadsheet. It's a row 1,000,000 plus on PC Excel or on the Excel. It's about row 1,000 on Sheets. If that happens to you, all you need to do is do Control or Command up arrow or the opposite arrow direction, and that will find the next piece of text and bring you back where you were. So again, I'm just going to jump back up and navigate down to I-21. I could jump to the right side of my data table just by hitting Control right arrow. And I can do the same thing where if I keep going, it's going to bring me, I hit down instead of right. If I keep hitting right, it's going to bring me again all the way to the right of my spreadsheet. I can just hit Control or Command left arrow, and that will bring me back to my data table. I can then use either just my arrow keys to navigate around or Control and my arrow keys, and that's jumping. Now, in order to select cells without using your mouse, you hold Shift down. Shift is the selection tool. So if I'm in cell L22 here, I hold Shift down arrow. That is going to select my entire L column here in terms of movies. If I use my Shift left arrow, I can just select additional cells, and then I can back off or unselect them if I hit, or deselect if I hit my right arrow. Again, I can select more cells to the right and back off by just going the opposite direction. If I wanted to copy this text, I could then just hit Control or Command C and right arrow over to say column N, Control or Command V as in Victor to paste. So Shift is what allows us to select cells without our mouse. Any questions on Control or Command or Shift? All right, so now we can combine them. So go back to L22 for me for a second. Just hit Command or Control Shift down. That is going to automatically select whatever string of data you're in or text. So it's a really easy way of copying a block of data if you need to. Then we could paste this instead of having Shift down. But we're going to do formulas in a second, and that's where it gets really powerful of being able to copy and paste formulas across a whole string of data. So let's go ahead and get started on that. If you're in, navigate to cell M22 for me. Sorry about that. M22. So this data is top grossing actors over the past couple of years, their average billing per movie, the number of movies they're in. We want to be able to calculate total billing. So hit your equal sign, left arrow twice, and that will select K22. Shift 8 is your multiplication sign or your asterisk, and then left arrow again, and that will select L22. You will notice anytime in Excel or Sheets, it will color code your cell references for you. So you can see that K22 is blue, L22 is red, and in the actual formula, the font color is the same. So it's a really nice way of being able to audit your formulas. We'll go through that in the inspecting and editing cell section. So now I know that Samuel L. Jackson's total billing is 37 million. How do I replicate this very easily for the rest of the table? I could just hit Shift and down all the way to the bottom and hit Control or Command D. That's going to drag that formula all the way to the bottom. I'm just going to hit Control C because I want to walk through a couple different ways with you guys. I could do Control or Command C as in cat again and do Shift down, similar to Control D, and paste it. Same way. The fastest way, especially as you get used to navigating without your mouse, is hitting Control or Command C and then hitting your left arrow. That's going to get into column L. So, and what we want to do is use our existing data in order to take a free ride down to the bottom of our data string. So if you hit Control down, that's going to allow me to jump to the bottom of my data table. You have to be confident when you're doing this that the row or the column you pick, doesn't have any blanks or anything, because it's going to bring you to where there's a break in data. So if there are blanks, you just have to keep hitting down until you're sure you're at the bottom of your data. And then hit right arrow, so you're back into column M, and hit Control or Command if you're on the Mac, Shift up. And that will jump back up to the cell that has your formula where you copied. And then you can hit Control or Command V as in Victor again to paste. So it seems a little, with this short of a table too, it seems a little onerous than doing Shift down. But especially for longer data, which we'll get to in a second, It really will save you a lot of time. So now hopefully everyone has their total billing filled out. Let's just add our totals in here. So a couple different ways we can do that. If you're on a PC Excel combo, you can hit Alt equals. That is like the automatic sum function. If you use it, I would just always make sure it is indeed selecting what you hoped it would select. So for me, it's L22 to L36. For everyone else, or if you want to get practice actually typing out the sum function, we would just do equals sum, open parentheses. First, you always need to use up arrow to get out of your sum function. If you start selecting cells without hitting up or to the left, if you're summing things to the left, you're going to inadvertently include your sum cell in your total. So it's going to give you a continuous calculation error. And if that happens, you just know that you have included your sum cell in your total and fix the formula. So you always want to up arrow out of it first, and then you can hit Control or Command Shift up. Again, it's going to bring you to the top of the data string. So in this case, it brought me to L21, which is my movies header. I don't actually want that as part of my sum. It will make it not work. So I can take my finger off of Control or Command, keep Shift down. So Shift is still down, and just use your down arrow. That will deselect, or remember, that will deselect what you have selected. So I can still pinpoint exactly what I want using my jumping keys and then backing off. So a really important note there. A few ways to get my total billing. Just as I hit Control or Command D to drag something down, I can hit Control or Command R to drag something across. I can also, that's going to take whatever is to the left of the cell and drag it into the cell to where I am located in the right. If I can also just copy this cell. So copy L37, right arrow, Control or Command V, and that will paste the formula. And when I paste any formula in Excel, the cell references are going to follow, just as they did when we copied that formula down. And I can hit F2. We'll go into that more in Nav Part 2, but F2 is what allows me to then see what my cell is referencing. It allows me to inspect and edit any formula. And so let's go over to top 2021 movie releases, top 50 movie releases in 2021. We have the gross billing dollars as well as opening weekend. We want to know how much money did they make on opening weekend as a percentage of the total. So let's do it for Spider-Man, and we're going to copy it down. So I'm in cell U22. I would do equals T22 divided by S22. Enter. I should get about 32%. Now, this is one where if I just tried to do Control or Command C, Shift down, it might take me a minute. It's only 50 rows, so not too bad. But it's a better approximation for how you can really leverage jumping. So if I do my left arrow key into column T, Control or Command down arrow, right arrow back to column U, Control or Command if you're on the Mac up, and then Control or Command V. And that again will allow you to paste all at once. And let me know if there's any questions. All right. As reference, we always, in all of our spreadsheets for courses, we always have complete tabs as well. So if something's tripping you up during class and you want to look at it, after class, that's always available to you. And there are a couple of data tables here that I'm just not going to get to in the interest of time, because it's just more practice at being able to copy and paste formulas down using your jumping keys. So if you want more practice, you can do those on your own time. Before we jump to the maze, I do just also want to say all of our kind of sections today are meant to be kind of discrete exercises. So we'll be working on one table and then move to the next, etc. So if they're not going to build on each other. So if you get like hung up in one spot, don't worry about it. Either trying to ask a question, or if it's just like not working for you, move to the next session. We're going to have multiple ways of practicing stuff. And you're not going to kind of get lost on everything else. It doesn't build on each other on purpose, so that you can kind of just pick up wherever we are. So again, try using your navigation keys for me to get to the Maze tab. So control page down if you're on the PC Excel. If you're on Mac Excel, option right. If you're on Sheets, alt down arrow. If you're on Sheets Mac, option down arrow. So we have a few different mazes here, and this is really just to practice and get comfortable navigating. The reason I spent a lot of time there is really navigating is about working that muscle, getting that repetition in, and feeling really comfortable with jumping, selecting, etc., where you can save a lot of time doing that and not using your mouse. Formatting is more about getting some of those top formatting things shortcuts memorized, and knowing the master shortcuts. Navigation is really about becoming comfortable with the exercise, working that muscle memory. So we have some mazes here. I want you to pick whatever maze is speaking to you. You're going to start in the yellow key, and I want you to see how long it takes you to get to the finish. I'm going to put a stopwatch up in a second. And then I want you to record your time. This is your own personal time. And then, in your spare time every single day, I want you to practice this and record your time and get better. No, but in your own time, you can work on this as a real way of improving your speed and comfortability, really navigating without that mouse. Because before you get really comfortable, your instinct is gonna be just to grab the mouse. So it's a nice little fun exercise to try and gain that comfortability. So I'm gonna put my stopwatch up here, and 3, 2, 1, go. And you're going to record your time. If you are, I'll just let you go, but if you have more time, I'm going to let it go for probably 45 seconds. If you finish early, you have more time, feel free to do another one as an exercise. But again, this will just be a sense to get your personal best, and then you can try and work on getting that time down over time, or challenging someone else. Stop at a minute. Okay. Okay, so hopefully everyone has their time, or times if you did multiple. Navigate to the Nav Part 2 tab. For me, just getting there on Sheets. So we went through navigating within a worksheet. Now we're going to go into navigating within a cell. I want you to navigate down to cell B22. B22. So first we're going to go through how to inspect and edit text within a cell, and then really spend some time on formulas. So in cell B22, hopefully everyone's on the Nav Part 2 tab. Hit F2 for me. F2 is the key that's going to get us in and out of cells. It's, that, and F4 is really, and F9 eventually is really why you want to turn your F keys on. So F2, you can see my cursor is now in my cell. I can hit left and right, can navigate anywhere within that word navigate. So we want to change this to from navigate to navigation. We would just hit F2, backspace, and then type ION, enter. Very simple example, just to showcase how to get into a cell and edit text. You can practice down below as well, B25. This is currently says Mac Excel. So if I hit F2, again, it's getting me into the cell to edit without going up to my formula bar with the mouse. And we can either use our arrow keys just as we did before to navigate around, or just as you can use control as a jumping key in your spreadsheet, you can also use control as a jumping key within a cell. So if I hit control left arrow, I'm going to jump to the end of that text string, which is just a word. But again, it's going to allow me to jump across that cell a lot faster, especially if I have a lot of text. I can also hit home, and that will get me to the beginning of the cell. End will get me to the end of the cell. So a lot of ways to make your cell navigation a lot faster. I'm just going to hit control left, get to that beginning for Excel, beginning of Excel, and then just backspace, type Mac and space, and hit enter to get out. Now I want you to navigate over. Now we're going to talk about inspecting and editing formulas. So we have a top 2021 movie releases here, similar to what we had before. Here we have opening dollars, as well as the number of theaters for that opening weekend. And we want to calculate the number of, or the amount of opening dollars per theater for opening weekend. So someone did this, or we did this, and we're getting a bunch of zeros. So we need to understand why. So you hit F2. Again, this is what's going to be able to get us into a cell and also inspect and edit what's going on here. So we see that we divided H23 divided by I23. Makes sense, except for the fact that my opening dollars are in millions. And I haven't adjusted for that. So even in a formula like this, we just use our arrow keys. Left arrow to the left of the forward slash, and hit times, and then just type a million. So just showing it how you navigate around a formula and how you can just edit it with additional text if you need to. And you should get 60,000. You can practice either just hitting shift down once you have that, or control command C, left arrow into column I, control or command down, right arrow, control shift up. And you'll need to back off one to not be in your header row. So I took my finger off control, and then control or command V.
Sorry, can you run through that one more time for a Mac sheet on how you did the left down over?
Yep. So you just hit command C, left arrow, command down arrow, right arrow, command shift up. That's going to select your header right now. So take your finger off of command, still hold shift, shift down and go down.
And then
Just hit
copy
or command V to paste. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
It was that keeping the shift to move down that I missed.
Yeah, exactly. That's backing. It's what I refer to as backing off, and it does take a little bit of comfort doing that, or just repeatability, repetition. Okay, great. Now, so that's just simple editing of a formula. Now we're going to go through how do I edit a formula by fixing a cell reference. I'm going to do this in Excel, and then I'm going to show it in Sheets, because Sheets is very different in terms of how you get in and out of a formula for cell references. So you can follow along somewhat, but it might be a little bit confusing. I'll jump there in 1 second. So navigate to Q23. Well, first of all, I just want to explain what's going on here. We have total followers by platform for, let's say, top 8 celebrities. And this is their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram followers. And we realized that we omitted TikTok by mistake. So we had this table, our total followers. I'm going to hit F2 here. sums up all of our followers from these 3 platforms. I want to add in TikTok, and then I need to fix my total so that it reflects the TikTok total as well. So we're going to get some practice copying and pasting and navigating as well. So navigate over to column S, and if you're in Sheets, you should do this as well. This isn't different at all. Go to S23, shift down, or control shift down if you want to jump. Again, practice that jumping. Control or command if you're on the Mac, C, copy again, and just left arrow until you get into column P. So you're in P23, control or command V as in Victor. So you're probably gonna get these flags in Excel that says your formula is omitting a cell next to it. So we need to fix that formula. So if you're in Q23 and you hit F2, that's what is bringing up my formula. Now I can edit it just as I did it previously. There's lots of different ways you could fix this range. For the sake of just practicing cell references and changing them, let's delete the whole range. So just have some open parentheses. And now I need to reselect the range that I want. In Excel, I'll do it in Sheets in a second. In Excel, in order to get out of a cell to then select cell references for that formula, you need to hit F2 again. So hit F2 for me and then left arrow. And that will select P23 for me. And then I'll just hit Shift, left arrow until I get M23 through P23 selected. And I can hit Enter. I'm just going to show you for a second. If I don't do that, if I'm here, I had hit F2, I'm in my formula. If I don't hit F2 again and I just hit left arrow, I'm still in my formula. So you can see my cursor is just moving in my formula. And then if I'm like, oh, I need to hit F2, I hit F2, and now I'm putting the cell reference in the wrong place. So if you forget to hit F2, you always need to make sure first, oops, now I'm all messed up. First make sure you are in the right part of your cell before you start hitting that cell reference again. So if I delete this and then I just keep going, I need to remember, oh, I forgot to hit F2, right arrow back to the location where I want to put that cell reference and then hit F2. It's like one of the most common, and it's super frustrating if that happens. And then practice copying that, Control or Command C, and you can either practice your jumping or just paste it down. If you're in Sheets for a second, you can do the same thing. Hit F2 on Q23. Deselect that range or delete that range. Sheets tries to be smart about when you want to reference cells and when you want to be still in a formula. So here we have a blank sum formula now. If you hit your left arrow key without hitting F2 again, it just assumes you want to select cells. So then I can just hit Shift left. I don't need to hit F2 again to get out. It's not consistent though. So I would just test it out and make sure it's getting you out of the cell or not. Then if it's not, you can have to hit F2 to get out. But it's not consistent. Every time you don't have to hit F2 and every time you can't automatically get out. And I can't really figure out exactly when it is making that assumption, like what their rules are for doing that. So you kind of unfortunately have to do a little bit of a trial and error in Sheets. Control C or Command C and Shift down. I actually hadn't pasted in my TikTok here. And then finally, let's just add in our total here. I just did Alt equals. You can also just copy the formula over from Instagram, or you could just hit Control or Command R, and that will drag over the Instagram total formula to TikTok. Quickly, we're going to touch one last section of editing text, and it's locking cells. I'm not going to go into extensively the intuition behind locking cells because we just don't have time. I want to make sure we get to formatting and a couple other housekeeping items at the end. But it is super important just in terms of being able to work a spreadsheet. So it's something we spend a lot of time in our courses. And I want to touch on it quickly because it's very important to know how to lock cells without using your mouse. But I'm not going to go through like extensively the meaning behind it. I'll just show you quickly. You don't have to do this. If I just copy this formula in my array that I want to fill out. This is, by the way, I want to know for each platform, like what percentage is Facebook of Kylie Jenner's total followers. So that was 6.5%. And I copied it through my entire table. And I'm getting some pretty ugly results here. And the reason what's happening, I'm just going to go to another cell, is again, my cell references are going to move. That's the automatic default whenever I copy a formula. So you can see what happened is they moved down and to the right. So which is what I want for my actual number of followers here. So now I'm in Ariana Grande's Twitter numbers. But her total number of followers reference also moved down and to the right. I actually wanted it to stay only in column Q. I don't want it to move off of column Q. Anytime you want to lock a specific reference, you don't want part of that cell to move. That is what we refer to as locking cells. So I want you just to go into M35 and your cursor will automatically be on Q23. I want you to hit F4. That is putting the dollar signs in front of the letter and the number. That is locking the row and the column. That's what that means. If you keep hitting F4, it's going to cycle through all of your locking options. Here, I have the dollar sign just in front of the row. That means just the row's locked, just the column's locked, nothing's locked, and go until the dollar signs, and you can just keep hitting F4, continuously cycle through all your options if you want. Go until the dollar sign's in front of the Q. That means that we're going to stay in column Q, but we're going to move down across my different celebrities. Once you do that, and now you can hit Control or Command C, shift down and across, and it will look much better for you. If you want, you can add your totals here, and they should all be 100%. That's just a check. And again, if you're new to locking, really developing that locking intuition takes time and takes practice. But I just wanted to showcase it as it is an important part of working in Excel, and F4 is how you do it on the keyboard. And again, on the complete tab, you have all of this filled out in terms of the formula as well. So now again, using your tab keys, Control page down, if you're on the PC Excel, Alt down arrow if you're on PC Sheets, Option down arrow, Mac Sheets, Option right arrow if you're Mac Excel. Formatting, there's a couple of master shortcuts to know here related to formatting. So I'm going to go through them. One first in Excel and then in Sheets. So if you're in, just follow along loosely. Maybe you need to use Excel, they're helpful to know, and vice versa with Sheets, but I'll be quick. If you're in Excel, hit Control-1 if you're PC. If you're in Mac, hit Command-1. That's going to bring up your master formatting box. To navigate across the different tabs in my master formatting box is the same way you navigate within your across your tabs in your worksheet. So Control page up, page down, or Option left, right. If I'm in my font bucket, for example, if I'm on the PC, these underline letters here, so underline F, underline O, that is telling me what the shortcut is. So if I hit Alt F, it's getting me into my font bucket. If I hit Alt U, I'm in now my underline bucket. If I'm not on the PC or I don't want to use that, I can also just hit Tab, and that's going to tab across my different sections without using my mouse. Same with number, I can hit Tab, and then my arrow keys, and then I could tab across decimal places, tab to my symbol, none, for example. So that's master formatting box. If you're just on the PC Excel version, you can hit Alt. This will bring up all of my shortcut ribbon keys, super important. This allows me to basically do anything in Excel without having to memorize a shortcut and without having to use my mouse. So if I hit Alt H, that is going to then dive into my Home tab on my ribbon and bring up all of the shortcuts related to that. So you can see if I wanted to center a line, it'd be Alt H AC. Alt H B for border, And then it brings up all of my border options, and it would be P for top border. It's a common one I use all the time. I could do Alt, hit escape to get out of it, by the way. Alt H would get me back in there, and then I could do something else. I could hit, if I hit Alt A, that would bring to my data, and I could do V for data validation, V again, etc. So I can really navigate anywhere just by knowing Alt will get me to my ribbon. Finally, if you're in Sheets, the most perhaps important thing, and even if you spend time mostly in Excel and then you have to use Sheets, the most important thing to know, Alt / Option / if you're on the Mac. Google makes Sheets. Google also makes Google Search, obviously. They've embedded a very robust search option into most of their actually kind of suite of products. So if you do Alt or Option / it's going to bring up the help menu here. I can type anything I want, and it is a very smart search function. Top border. Say I want to fill a cell yellow. I have 8 different options to choose from. Say I want to do, again, data validation. I can, lots of options there. Say I want to paste values only. And what it's doing is also giving me the shortcut, if I cared, in this kind of gray text over here. Whenever I work in Sheets, honestly, I know limited, I know the most important shortcuts. Otherwise, I rely on Alt or Option / all the time. And it's how I can easily go back and forth between Sheets and Excel without using my mouse as well. So very helpful, very important. Basically anything you want to do, you can do through Alt or Option /. So now we're going to get into Paste Special. So say we had this wonderful table here, and we wanted to add our total row. This is a typical example of what we would need to do. So we write total here in G18. I add my sums. I can copy that down. And I could copy this across, or I could have just copied that sum down all the way as well. So now I have this column, it's unformatted. Instead of taking the time to kind of individually format it, I can just select. So I'm just in column F18, shift down, Control or Command C, navigate to G18. If you're on the PC, Alt ES. If you're on the Mac, Excel, Command Control V. If you're on Sheets, Alt or Option / and type paste format. So paste format in Sheets and just hit enter. If you're in Excel, Paste Special is going to pop up this menu of options. There's all different ways you can paste. So I could only paste values. So that's going to kind of get rid of any formula. And now I have static values. I could only paste format, which is what we're going to do. I could only paste column widths, which we'll do in a second. Lots of options here. So, and I just use my down arrow keys to navigate to formats. You could also do Alt. You could also just hit T. So it's Alt EST for format, V for values if you're on the PC. Unfortunately, you don't have that option once you hit Command Control V. You just have to use your arrow keys on the Mac and hit OK. And what it's going to do is just paste the formatting that I had in my TikTok column over to my new total column. Similarly, if I select this entire table down here, and I paste it into column E here, for example. I have stuff linked here, it's not copying correctly. So what I would do where it's still copied, if I'm in the PC, I would do Alt ES V for values, or Command Control V on the Mac, and paste it. And then it's still copied, so I just hit Alt ES again. I can do W for column widths, and it will automatically expand the column to the exact length I had them previously. If I'm in Sheets, just really quickly, and I copy that same thing. I can do, actually, if you're in PC Sheets, you can do Alt ES, but again, I would just do Alt / paste values. And then I would have to, a little bit more cumbersome in Sheets, copy that again, Alt ES, W for width, or Alt Option / column width, paste column width. Anytime you can use existing formatting, the better. Saves you a ton of time. So there's a couple more examples of formatting stuff here. So part 2 would be just taking this unformatted table and formatting it to make it look like the one on the right. So that would just be practicing your shortcuts that you have up above, and using your master formatting box. In the interest of time, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but this is more about just practicing those shortcuts. In Sheets, it's all about Alt Option / and typing in the format. If you're in Excel, it would be selecting it, probably using your Control 1 or Command 1 box, navigating down to font. I would choose single accounting underline, and then I would probably do Alt HAC to center it. Select this. I do Control 1. I do accounting. So it is still somewhat cumbersome. If you spend a lot of time in Sheets and Excel, that is probably the faster way. Again, if I want to do top border, Alt HBP. If you spend a lot of time in Excel, in PC Excel combo specifically, there are shortcut macros where, for example, if I wanted to shade cells, I have shortcut macros in my Excel. So I can just hit Control-Shift-V, and it's going to cycle through all different shades for me. I can hit Control-Shift-U. It's going to go through all different underline options for me just by my keyboard. But those require shortcut macros. If you spend a lot of time, it's worth kind of installing those. We also do recommend, if you're really a power user, you can download Macabacus. It's a much more robust macro shortcut program. It does cost money, and we're not affiliated with them at all, but just as another recommendation. So with that, I hope you guys found today useful and recorded your times for those mazes, and can continue to work through. And really, it just takes repetition and kind of knowing where to start, and then really trying to be diligent about not using that mouse and trying to get familiarity, with the keyboard. So thank you all very much for joining. I'll hang out for a few minutes if anyone has any questions or wants anything clarified. Thank you.